So I've been wanting to make this video this week, and I caught a break in the weather here. It's been raining every day. So I'm going to try and make this video real quick, and it is how to make a bird nest. So what you'll want is your material. You'll want the lightest, fluffiest stuff that you can find. You can use anything from pine straw, sawgrass, cedar fluff, cedar strips off of the bark, cattail fluff. You can use the cotton balls in your house, jute twine people carry with them so that they can pull it apart and make a nice fluffy nest. There's so many different options out there. What I have today is collected naturally from sawgrass, from dog fennel, and from cedar bark that I've scraped off. So those are going to be my materials. So what I have over here is basically this is going to be the outside portion, the outer shell of my bird nest, and this is the sawgrass. So sawgrass has the long wispy strands of green grass, and as it dies it begins to curl and shrivel up and even begins to really curl up down at the bottom, which this stuff is wonderful for making bird nests and for starting a fire. So I'll use these long wispy parts here to make the outside of it, and since it's naturally curly, I will simply fold it in on itself following that natural curve, that natural curl. So I'll kind of get it all compacted down here. It may not look like much, but this stuff is wonderful, and it doesn't look like a lot of material, but this stuff catches a spark from a ferro rod extremely easily. Typically I can get it in one strike, and so this will be the outer portion. And then what I'm going to do for the inner portion is I'm going to take my cedar fluff here, right here, my cedar fluff, cedar bark, the scrapings, and I'm going to stick it down in the center of this. So it's going to be nice and fluffy. And a tip for this is once you've scraped it up and kind of packed it down into whatever you're going to be carrying it with, when you pull it out, kind of pull it apart. Make it really nice and light and fluffy. Kind of pull it apart a little bit, give it more surface area there. More material you can find and have, the better. Even if you don't use it all directly for your bird nest, if you have some tinder set aside that you can plop on top of this thing, when the flames do begin to grow, it's just going to make it even more hotter and easier for your kindling to catch when you add that on. So this is the general shape and idea that I have for a bird nest. See, I can even hold it down here and still have that rounded bird nest shape up here. So when I throw a spark on there and catch it, I can kind of lift it up with this portion, let some oxygen get in underneath it, and then even turn it over like that so the flames begin to catch all of this stuff on the underneath on fire. So this is a small version of what I would typically make, and this is what it would look like. And I would use this and I would throw a spark right onto this, and then I would begin to add more stuff to it, which for that I have quite a bit more of the sawgrass. What other stuff I'm going to add to it is the dog fennel. This is where the dog fennel comes in, and it's dead and standing, so it's not been on the ground soaking up all the water and the wetness and the moisture that it's been getting this week. This stuff is wonderful. All of this fluff up top here, it is wonderful in catching a flame, catching a spark. I've actually used dog fennel alone to make a bird nest, and the way that I would do that is, let me find one of my smaller pieces. I want to use that big piece to put on top of this bird nest when I get it lit. So the way that I would use this is, it's not going to be round, it's literally just going to look like a bundle of twigs, but because of the fluff on it, it turns it into a bird nest. So the way that I do that is literally just begin to break it into itself. So there is some fluff left in there, and of course if I was going to use this as a bird nest, I would have much more material than this. So what I would do is I would take a bundle like this with all the fluff that was broken down into it, literally throw a spark right onto it, and it will catch, and it goes up very quickly. And you also have some built-in kindling there. The branches and the limbs from the dog fennel act as your kindling for your next step, and it's all kind of built into itself, which I actually already have some other dog fennel that I've broken down. So I would have a bundle, throw a spark on that, and it'll catch relatively well. Some other kindling that I have to throw on this is some dead green briar vines. This stuff is great for kindling. It dries out very easily, and of course I collected this stuff from the stuff that was hanging down in the tree. You know, when looking for dry material, you want to kind of look for dead hanging stuff because it's not going to pull up and soak up all of that moisture on the ground. So looking for kindling and tinder in wet weather, you want to look for places that are kind of covered by the canopy. Also maybe dead hanging stuff, as the water can kind of just wick off of it and drip off of it, and it won't have a tendency to soak up as much as that moisture. And it's been raining every day here, and this stuff still has a nice snap to it, so that's going to be some good kindling. So I'm going to adjust the camera here down a little bit to focus on this bird nest down here, and then we're going to throw a spark on it and see if I can get it to light. So this is the bird nest again. Got it kind of compacted in on itself and everything's together. I mean, it doesn't look like much, it looks like it's falling apart, but this stuff is going to catch up really easily, really well. So you've got your bird nest here. Whatever your lighting material, lighting method would be, you would simply throw it into that lightest fluffy stuff, wait for it to catch, and then allow the oxygen. If you have enough material on the outer edge to pick it up and allow some oxygen to get in there, kind of blow in there. And then I like to kind of flip mine over so that the flames begin to climb through all of that material. So we'll try to replicate that here. The knife that I'm using today is my Adventure Sworn Wayfarer. It's a really nice overall length of 8 inches, and it's a good utility knife. I can use it for so many different things. And then I've got my Midwest Woodcraft ferro rod here. Then it's a 1/2 inch by 5 inch. It's really wonderful. So we'll kind of get some scrapes off of it there. So one thing that you can do with a ferro rod is you can scrape off some of this material down into it before you even throw a spark. Now what that's going to do is these scrapings of the ferro rod down in there are going to catch fire all in there and then act like a stable point for that fire to catch onto. So now that you've done that, simply throw your spark. Now a good way to do this is to, so your material's not moving around, don't move the knife towards the tinder bundle, but kind of get your knife in a set point and then simply scrape the ferro rod backwards. This is so you're not trying to push that knife into your material, moving your material around. So I'll kind of get in a stable position and then throw the knife backwards, kind of pull it backwards. So then I like to pick it up and turn it over. There we go. And this is where the extra material comes in handy. I can throw that right on top, get this flame going nice and good, and then add the dog fennel